Countdown begins.
So Chris, we have to wait till exactly 1, that's why we have this awkward
There we
time.
go.
Oh,
Okay, everyone's ready.
excuse me.
Get started. It is, are we recording?
Yes.
Okay, it's 1:00 PM. We're going to begin this March 5th afternoon work session of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. And up first, I don't have the agenda up right in front of me at this instant, hold on. Okay, we have a discussion with the Lake County Coroner on Lake County financial policies and staff engagement. This is led by Tim Bergman, and we'll start with him. Take it away, Tim.
Sure, thank you, commissioners. So one of the reasons we set this work session with the coroner's office was trying to get a understanding, between elected officials of the role of Board of County Commissioners setting financial policies that everyone needs to abide by, and then how those other offices and departments engage with finance office staff when they, routinely ask for questions for receipts, agendas, things like that, proof, reason why the county should be paying for those kind of things, and then that staff engagement, so it is respectful and professional. So we do have, some stuff in there. I don't know, Candace, if you wanna add anything. Candace, Ryan's is our finance director, but I don't know if you wanna add anything for the kickoff, or if you want me to pull up the spreadsheet, or we can wait for that.
Why don't we hold off on that? I think, really why we're here is to make sure we understand what the financial policies are, and for me to have also some guidance about how you guys want me to utilize those. I'm new, and I inherited those policies, and they need some work, which we're gonna talk about this afternoon, or in the second half of our meeting. But I did include just some examples of things that we've seen that are challenging for us as a finance team, that we're trying to get the correct information from people, and also our policies are new, explaining to people, this is the policy and this is what we need. So I did include just some examples of what we've asked for, and also want to express that our staff spends a great deal of time having to go back and forth to track down information, that we are trying to, train people, this is the policy, so they can start to provide those things to us, and we don't have to go on a exploratory mission to just get receipts, et cetera. And this is across the board for the whole county, so I think that's all I've got to say. Yes.
So we have done the review of the financial policies as part of your onboarding there, and I guess looking for guidance from, the board on that of, I always, if it's one of my staffers, right, of like, there's a missing receipt form or things that I have to sign off of, or like if finance asks a department director or one of my departments for something, right, they need to provide that and do that for the justification of using those county tax dollars. So I just want to, be able to discuss that with the board and with the coroner on, the enforcement of those policies, the importance of those policies, to be able to track the public's money, and how we do that. So I don't know if you wanna have an open discussion, about it, or how the board feels about it, or if the coroner would like to say anything.
I think from what I'm understanding is that we're going through a lot of growing pains right now, trying to implement lots of new financial policies. I don't think it's lost on anyone in this room that we've had some pretty loose financial policies in the past. And implementing new policies is always tricky. It can change, perceptions of why is someone coming after me, or why is, I don't, people might feel singled out, when they're being approached with requests. I feel like we all have room to grow when we're making changes here, and what I worry gets lost sometimes is the human element when we're looking at screens all day and we're just seeing numbers and information and trying to figure out why it's not making sense, and reaching out between departments to figure out how to make it make sense can probably be pretty frustrating sometimes. So, I think the bottom line, from what I'm gathering, I'm not seeing the whole picture here, but I think what got lost was, something between just seeing stuff on a screen and the human element of interacting. And, the communication broke down somewhere. So I don't know how to fix it, but I'm willing to, work with anyone on, ideas how we can improve, especially interdepartment communications and things like that, to bring back a little bit more of a human element between, how we're talking to each other, things of that, and being able to answer requests without taking things personally, things of that nature, so. Alex, do you wanna chime in on this, or do either of the commissioners wanna put in your thoughts first before we send it out to the room?
Well, I just have a question. Were you all able to connect on understanding the policies? Like, Critter, were you able to understand what the finance director was asking from you?
We kind of have a small issue there insofar as I have the finance policy here, so as I said, I abide by policies. These policies have to be communicated to us. I have printed out the last policy that was sent to us. And
Candace, how many times did you send the policies to the corner?
I'm new, so I have to assume, I don't know who all has the new policies. So anytime we've been asked about them, I send the link to the ones that have been approved by the board.
Yeah.
On the website, so every time we've had an inquiry.
Yeah.
I've attached those and sent them, because in my mind, that's actually the only copy I've ever seen. I know that there probably are ones that were before it, but I think it's easiest to just say we keep the updated ones posted, so I've sent the link.
Yeah, Critter, did you?
so here's the issue. So this is a copy of the last financial policy document that actually includes the small purchases. This is the policy that I asked for because it does, if it is in the new policies, I have missed it, and I read them fairly thoroughly. Perhaps this is a criticism of my reading comprehension. The minimum procurement procedure in question is small purchase. This document actually does describe what the small purchase policy is, and I will hand it over to you. I followed the letter and the spirit thereof, so this is something that has been on my mind and something I have always strove for compliance. Along with this, I have something else regarding the fiduciary responsibility of my office. This is our budget numbers for the end of last year. We were 20% under budget. We saved the county almost $77,000. So, it is my goal to not be a spending problem, and I would call that successful. I would like to be more successful, right? I'd like to spend even less, have more of a budget surplus. Part of that is from our lower case volume, and part of it is from our, judicious use of taxpayer money. Here's our budget numbers, just wanted to bring those.
I don't think anyone here is questioning how well you're working with your budget or anything. My biggest thing that jumps right out at me is April 19th, 2021. I think, is this as simple as a miscommunication between, we're working off different financial policies?
So the problem is this, the new financial policy it mentions the small purchases policy, and nowhere in that policy does it actually describe that policy. That's the problem. That's the fundamental issue I'm having here, because it mentions it, but then it never describes it. So that's the reason I brought the old one, is because the new one seems to completely omit the policy.
Candace, is that true? Where is our small procurement policy?
The procurement and contracts policy, I believe, lists purchases and contracts by the level.
Right.
Expenditure. and what the requirements are for each of
So-
those, and so I'm not.
That addresses the small,
Yeah,
small
all procurements, there is no longer a small
For
procurement.
the sake of argument, let's say, you know, we maybe sent the most modern up-to-date procurement policy to the wrong email, or it just got lost in an email or something like that. Moving forward, is there any issues on your end with being able to just, with adhering to what the most up-to-date one is with
Not at
small
all.
purchases?
I will
Okay,
adhere to any policy
okay.
presented now or anytime in the future by the BOCC.
Cool, so, you know, like bringing back this human element to things, you know, if there was a misstep at somewhere along the way, you know, like, I'm willing to put that in the past and just moving forward, can we just, you know, keep everything up to snuff from today moving forward, or do we really need to get into missteps that we've made in the past?
I am amenable to moving forward.
I think that lends to the staff engagement piece.
Yeah.
So as we
Okay.
talked about, when we review P-card purchases and any other invoice or things like that, finance staff pull things that they subjectively deem odd. Right? Oh, why buying that? Oh, that's kind of expensive, whatever. In my opinion, my finance department is empowered to ask anyone who made that purchase why they made that purchase. And a justification, an answer, and that's all that really was asking for. And then a future suggestion of, well, perhaps the next time you don't have to buy the top of the line thing, you could buy a different model or something else, and then it devolves into a fight. All it is a suggestion from the finance director who is empowered to enforce the finance policies and who reviews every single purchase this county makes.
So the understanding would be that, you know, it's okay for the finance director to make suggestions. There's gonna be times where it makes sense to buy a top of the line item, you know, for efficiency and or durability, longevity. But the act of making the suggestion shouldn't be taken as a personal affront. Is that kind of what we're getting at? Okay,
May I?
yeah,
So I wanna add that in this case, it wasn't, I do not dispute in any way the right of finance to question any purchase involving the taxpayer money. Here's the part I object to. On Tuesday, January 14th, Ms. Bryans wrote, "The following two items appear to be personal purchases rather than business expenses. Two items are listed. I am certain
Why don't
purchasing
you list what the items are and the price, please?
Smith Optics MagShift sunglasses, 215. Leatherman Charge Plus TTI Versatile Multi-Tool, 189.95. I am certain purchasing personal items through the Lake County government Amazon was an oversight on your part. That is the part that I have an objection to. That is an accusation of misappropriation of public funds, which is a criminal act. That, and I wanna add that at no time during this email chain was I discourteous. I still offered an explanation, lengthy explanation included here in these emails
yeah, I've read that.
You read them.
as to why those purchases were made. That explanation was not accepted, despite the fact that I am ABMDI certified, CCA certified, and IACME certified. I do know how to pick gear for our office, so that's the objection I have, and I remain courteous the whole time. So once we start with an accusation, I think that maybe that closes some doors. At that point, I begin thinking that maybe I should treat this as a legal matter.
I mean, Alex, I get how, I get how that could be interpreted because it was over email, but also I can see how Candace was trying to be like, hey, I am also trying to give the benefit of the doubt that it was a mistake. I think she was also offering you an opportunity to have a conversation. So, you know, it does sound like a narrow reading of what was offered to you.
Understood.
Yeah.
In addition to this, I'd also like to point out that my response to it is a thorough justification of why these purchases were made, why these specific purchases were made rather than other purchases.
Yeah,
And a note that we have done this since 2022. We do maintain a stock of these items for reissue when somebody leaves. We have fairly low turnover.
Yeah.
So,
to Andy's point though, this kind of devolved, and having read it, it didn't seem like it had to devolve. It just felt like misunderstanding after misunderstanding, and instead of like responding to requests for a meeting where you could meet person to person, have some humanity and like get past the screen, that opportunity wasn't taken, and that's where I kind of see the failure of communication. Yes, your emails were perfectly logical, but instead of trying to like seek to understand what finance was offering, it felt like you just kept doubling down. And what I would expect from anyone who works in this building is to say, whoa, this does not seem as, the weight being put on this communication doesn't seem justified. I now need to go to the next level and speak to this person to get past that. And that didn't happen. And I do know that Candace offered that. I do know that she offered that. So that's where I see like a failure of communication, is you taking the opportunity to take some of the weight off of what is clearly like, not really a big deal.
understood.
That's my impression of how this has gone and the change I wanna see personally.
So I will certainly work towards that. But I'd also like to reemphasize that my willingness to meet in person was certainly diminished by an accusation of criminal misconduct.
Sure, totally how you read it. But sometimes we need to be brave when it comes to interacting with people, and that can be really uncomfortable, and it's totally necessary for how we actually keep this machine running.
Understood. That's something I'll work on in the future.
Given that, maybe Candace, instead of saying something like that, you could just say, can you please explain the purchase?
May I respond?
Please.
We have a lot of purchases that, anytime we ask for any information, receipts, a business reason, which the IRS requires for business purchases, are met with a lot of argument or lack of documentation, and it's constantly that the old policies brought up, even though the new ones provided. And I did reach out to both governing bodies, actually worked in pharmacy for 5 years, and I'm very proficient and understand sterile technique and how deceased bodies need to be handled correctly, and I understand that those equipment purchases likely had like a need, and when I reached out, I think the biggest issue was that I reached out to both of the governing bodies that he works with tax certification to understand, are these items needed? Cause I don't wanna question a purchase that seems like this isn't over the cost, right? If there really was a need for that cost of item, I certainly don't wanna create an issue. And reached out to say, hey, is this typical? Is this what we see people purchasing? Because I think also a big thing is Alex feels like he is being asked this, like, cause I am on him. I do this all day long with a million purchases and just say, hey, can we have a discussion about it? And that was really my hope, is it seems like we often have a lot of different types of purchases, and I included an Excel sheet for you that just are hard for me to justify to the public when they get purchased, and I don't have receipts to back them up. And I really am just trying to be as transparent as possible. So I think what he took as like, hey, I'm attacking you, was me just saying, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation about how we can do this better in the future. And maybe the most expensive pair of Smiths aren't the right option, or maybe they are, and maybe like we look at it using GovX and getting a discount and not paying sales tax on every purchase.
Mhm.
How can we work to do that together and catalog these so that they can be reissued? I think a concern I have as a finance director is seeing that a county similar in size to us has 191 deaths to, I think ours were like in the 40s, and seeing that our budgets are almost, actually their budget is less. That's a concern to me as a finance director when I'm looking at budgets. Okay, does this make sense? Does this align with what I'm seeing in other counties? Do we need to get better with budgeting? Yeah, we do. And so when I'm looking at expenses, I'm thinking about, okay, what did we budget? Do we need to negotiate better contracts when we buy items? So I think for me, I really wasn't trying to be disrespectful. And anytime I see a purchase from anybody, I know the policies are new, so I extend the olive branch of, hey, let's meet and talk about the policy, and does this work, and what do we need to redo differently when these evolve as we use them?
This conversation plays out so much different when we're in a room talking than I think it does on a screen.
Can I ask a question? I would like to know why a coroner who doesn't do his job can get $200 sunglasses, really?
At least PPE.
Yes, they are.
Okay, my issue with all that is, last year, March 31st at 8:15, my mom passed away. We called, he was notified the day before from Bristlecone, I think it was, that my mom was on hospice care. She was gonna pass. We were so, he's talking about disrespect. He disrespected my mom's body for 6 hours. She sat in my house. He totally refused to go pick her up. And one of the things he mentioned was, it's not a crime scene. And let me know if there's any bullshit after we were all
I
done.
did not say that, ma'am.
We got it on recording. We have every one of the
recording.
recordings, every one of them. And we are so disrespected with that. The mortuary that we finally got to come and get my mom came from Denver. Yeah, they came for her probably 3:30 or 4 is when she finally left our house. My mom's body, to me, all these other coroners that are getting arrested for doing these bad things to her, that was disrespect to my mom's body.
And to the family.
And to the whole family. We all sat
She lay there for 6 hours waiting for this man to even call back.
Or even let one of his
this man,
deputies.
whoever it was.
None of them went, none of them.
And
And
the
that,
good thing is they have it all recorded.
we got it all from dispatch, so there's no denying anything that was said.
need to lie about stuff.
Okay, let's give everyone a chance to respond to this, just so everything is not discounting anything you ladies are saying.
But I'm also glad that he was wearing his PPE glasses while he was out hiking while my grandma was laying there dead for 6 hours. I'm glad he got those glasses for that.
Okay, understood, thank you. Let's start with, Heath, do you have anything to chime in on this?
Sorry for your loss.
You guys should all listen to the video or the recordings of the 911 call and how disrespectful he was. All of y'all should listen to that.
Okay.
He even got calls from Bristlecone, and I think Dr. Morano tried calling him, who was
Pretty
my
sad
mom's
that the surrounding coroners were even willing to come pick up my grandma, but they couldn't because it wasn't in their jurisdiction when the only coroner that we have in Lake County didn't give a flying fuck. Which is pretty sad. He needs to get out of there.
I understand this is a really emotionally charged conversation, but let's do our best to stay as cognizant of what we're with the verbiage we're using in this room. Please and thank you. Let's give the coroner a chance to respond to this, just so we can get all the sides.
And I would, if you just to interject, I will say that the issue was reported to the district Attorney's Office for the Fifth Judicial District. They did investigate it. Statements were provided to them. We have not heard from them officially closing the case, but that is the indication they've given in terms of not finding any malfeasance on behalf of Corner Crab in that matter. And so I would prefer he not, because we have not, that hasn't officially been closed. At least I haven't gotten word that the investigation's been closed. Out of respect for him and deference, not to create an issue for him.
Okay,
Suggest that
that's a legal,
it's a legal issue.
issue. What else can we do to honor the aggrieved party's claims? Is that?
Maybe we should let you guys listen to the recordings of him denying pickup of my grandmother.
Yes.
There were circumstances, extenuating circumstances and misunderstandings and miscommunications by
Yeah,
both
he
of
was
them.
hiking. He was out hiking.
There was no misunderstandings.
Well,
We
I
had
apologize, the information that my office was given to review this matter shows that there was a misunderstanding as to the nature of the situation.
You know, I don't wanna like litigate anything in here because that's not our opportunity in this room. And this is one of the unfortunate times where, like the needs of a grieving family are going to be almost diametrically opposed to what we're legally allowed to do. And I don't wanna cause more harm by offering something that we can't provide. So I really appreciate you all being here. I appreciate you all using this public opportunity to like speak up.
Elsa, this is Deidre. Can I say something?
Of course.
So Deputy Treasurer, also work for Lake County Government and family representative for the Gallegos family. So I totally get where this meeting is wanting justification for him to validate his expenses and what he's using taxpayer dollars for as being a Lake County employee and also part of the family that went through this. The justification of him not doing his elected duties as coroner and using taxpayer dollars and not justifying his purchases for his department. I get where the family's upset because to us, he feel like he's not doing his job, yet he's still being able to make these purchases, do everything that he's doing with Lake County tax dollars. And a simple justification, just like any other department, with me working in the treasurer's office, another department where we have to justify our purchases and what we use our money for. It's as simple as that. So I don't know where he fights, where he feels like he doesn't have to justify his expenses when to us, we feel like he's not doing his elected duties.
I think that's really legit, Deirdre, and I am just offering that since it's still with the DA, that like we are not the DA. And so I think it's important information. I'm grateful that it's in this room, and we can't like, as a BOCC, we can't say, well, this is what happened because it's still in litigation. That's just what I'm offering. I really appreciate, especially Deirdre, where you sit as a county employee and a family member. That's an invaluable perspective.
Just as a point of clarification, please,
Yeah.
there is no litigation that's
Oh, it's
currently
not.
pending. It is just
It's
an
just,
investigation into the allegations raised by the family. No charges have been brought, no claims to my knowledge have been brought against Corner Crab in
Great.
relation to that.
okay. Thank you for that clarification.
I will mention one more thing. He did send us a letter that was supposed to be an apology, but really wasn't. It wasn't even professional. It wasn't even professional. We have copies of that. And it was just because it was written on Lake County paper. He couldn't even sign Lake County Coroner, just Alex. It's like, a professional does not do that. You don't.
Was the coroner elected or was he appointed?
Elected.
He wasn't elected?
Only because nobody else was running against him.
Oh, okay, he was an only candidate, okay.
Have you guys, have you ladies been made aware of all the channels available to you in filing complaints or a grievance within, okay. We'll make sure we get your contact information and be sure that we've given you every opportunity available that we have as a county to, express the issues that you've had, and take whatever, actions are appropriate. This work session is focusing on the financial aspects of this. So, I'll make sure we follow up with you guys to, carry this conversation on in the right format at the right time. And give you, as much of our time as we're able.
I do wanna just offer, because I've had a couple constituents who have been confused about like what the BOCC's purview is, like what the three of us have control over. And elected officials are not one of them, so Heath as the sheriff, Tracy as the clerk and recorder, Patrick as the treasurer, Alex as the coroner, Mark as the assessor. All we don't oversee any of them, and they're, the way that they answer to the people.
That's exactly what we found out.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because I don't wanna like overpromise something that we don't have control over. What we do have control over is how elected officials run their the finances of their department, yeah.
Is it true then that he only has to show up for a crime instead of just a death?
I think the state sets all those regulations, that's up to the state of Colorado. Lake County is unable to set policy individually for elected officials. To my knowledge, I'm still pretty new at this position, so, if I do say something that's not entirely accurate, I appreciate any patience or grace on that. But I do believe that, the coroner's position and all the regulations regarding that are set by the state of Colorado. Okay.
We have control of people's office hours. And I can,
And they're
we don't really have control.
I mean, that's a challenge.
Yeah,
We're really sorry for your loss.
yeah, deeply.
So I just wanna offer, I meant no disrespect, and I am sorry for the way things played out, and I do regret the way things happened. I don't expect it to be accepted, but I wanted to
It's
offer
not
that.
accepted because you could have done
It's
that
not accepted.
not a
That was
year,
so unprofessional.
it'll be a year this month. Not one apology from you until 3 or 4 months after the situation, after.
But I'm offering you my apology.
He doesn't care about his constituents.
Means nothing to you,
Understood.
means nothing to us.
Yes, ma'am.
We've heard 2 or 3 horror stories about the same thing, same families in Leadville going through the same thing.
This has happened.
I just wanted to say, I hope he'll know now not to do this to families. To learn his job, he's getting paid big bucks, learn your job and do it right. It's grieving, they're grieving already, they don't need that extra.
Just,
You know,
yeah,
on
it's
his
6
part.
hours,
learn his job, do it,
imagine 6 hours, but
and
he's
move forward
living
with
it.
it now, he's learned maybe by it, and he can move forward.
And they had to
Okay.
call the coroner in Summit County to ask for information because they wouldn't give it to us.
Understood.
And we do not realize this is not the place, but it's gotta be brought out somewhere.
We'll make sure that we can get to you guys the state level contacts, to, to send these concerns to the appropriate agencies. And again, we're sorry for what you've been through.
Thank you.
I would just say that I believe those concerns have been expressed to the state, which is what triggered the investigation by the district attorney's office into this matter. So,
Okay.
I think the state is aware of what happened and lost concerns and stuff. And so if you would like to have information on the status of that investigation to the extent that they can provide that, my suggestion would be to contact Patty McCollum, who is the elected district attorney for the 5th Judicial District. You can give it our website, you can go to the website and get her contact information there.
Also, if you just reach out to any of the three of us, we're happy to get you that contact too.
Okay.
Yeah, you just keep in touch.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back to the financial aspects of this situation. What are,
Thank you.
people's,
Bye, you guys.
thank you. What are people's thoughts on solutions moving forward, as far as like, do we just make subtle tweaks to how we communicate? Do we try to step up, requests for in-person conversations when things start to evolve, or devolve, I'm sorry? Or, and it's hard, man, these are hard conversations, not quite as hard as some other conversations, but, the just working purely from a screen and typing, there's so much that gets lost, so much nuance and so much, tone of voice versus what you can read on a screen, and so many things, can get misinterpreted.
Could we add a part to the policy that says, hey, this is a code 5. Code 5 is a piece of paper, you gotta fill out this paper with what it is. Instead of, making an accusation or however you took it, this came up as a red flag, code 5, that triggers this, you have to explain it. Would that, something like that
All
work?
purchases have to have for the IRS, all business purchases have to have an explanation. And that's actually the second part of this, is to really talk about how could we,
Move forward.
I inherited the policies we currently have, and they are a lot of standalone policies that reference one another, and the procedures packed into the policy, which can be challenging. You have to cross-reference several documents. And so really what I wanna talk with you guys about is how can we streamline our policy, so the policy doesn't change, even if the process that we use there, our ERP system, Tyler, maybe we don't use that Sunday. The process can change, but the policies don't, and that we're modeling what we see other counties asking for. So in terms of like reimbursement requests, we do ask for receipts, and I think someone actually enforcing that receipts get turned in hasn't been done incredibly well in the past. And so I do know that this is new, and I think that's why I asked for the conversation, is a lot of this is new. And to understand what's required, I think is easier to sit down and have that conversation. Which is why I asked for one, as I thought, okay, these policies are brand new, of course, maybe everybody doesn't know them inside and out. So I think what you're asking for is that we ask for a conversation, and I think that's what I was trying to achieve there.
I think part of it too, so remember when, so when I started, there were 0 policies.
Right.
So in the creation of these, and I agree fully with Candace, and I'm excited for the next step of the consolidation of that, and then working more on that procedure aspect as well. But even when I started, whoever was in accounts payable, right, this, whoever the person is or kind of like an entry level, a junior level person, right? So you send it to this, accounts payable, lakecountyco.gov website, you don't know who the other person is on the end. And that person is treated probably like the worst, even after me, in this county. There's 0 respect for that person when they say, hey, did the mileage calculation, turns out it's off. We require, Google Map it, that's what we go off of. Hey, we need a receipt, and generally, the response is just a giant F you. You don't tell me what to do, I run my own office, I run my own department, so that part of it is the staff engagement for everybody in the county needs to treat each other with respect. Well, then even further going through, as we develop more and more policies, our travel policy, actually you helped inform a lot of it, Alex, and trying to ensure that when people go to an event or a conference that Lake County is paying for, that you show up and you do the thing that we're paying you for, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we require an agenda, proof of attendance, right? You go and get a training and you get your certificate, congratulations, well, that's awesome. Can I have a copy of your certificate and a little proof of why we're spending the money?
is there like variations on that, like, oh, well, like, so-and-so was there, they know you were there, you know, is there like different levels of how you can vouch for being?
No, because I learned that from the former assessor, he used to always go to the conference over in Breckenridge, every year. Never went to a damn class. He went mountain biked. Oh, I saw Miguel there. Hey, you saw him in Breck. You didn't see him in the conference.
Take a selfie at the Breck sign and.
But right, like, yeah, but that, you know, that's part of it, and it might seem onerous or big brother to people, but like, we're working with really, really scarce resources and we have to manage them as best as possible.
Yeah.
Or justify it to everyone in this community of like, why did you do that?
Yeah,
Well, I got this certificate because it makes me better at my job, here's how it made me better.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've read through the email chains, I didn't see the big FU coming from Alex.
Never said that.
Was it defensive?
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, and you know, maybe we can work on that moving forward, and then anything that's kind of in an accusatory nature, let's work on that a little bit, maybe just, you know, tweak the verbiage a little bit. I think that would go 90% of the way towards resolving these things before they turn into what we're looking at right here. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm being overly hopeful, but, you know, I don't see any, I don't know what kind of like hard concrete changes we can enact that's really gonna avoid this in the future. It's probably gonna flare up again in other departments, you know, I know, you know, you get disrespected probably on the regular, you know, you don't like being accused of doing stuff that you didn't do, but, you know, moving forward, you know, the only thing I have to offer is just trying to bring back that human element a little bit when we're talking to each other.
Yeah,
Yes.
so first of all, I wanna emphasize a willingness to reconcile. Policies that are articulated to me, I will comply with in both letter and spirit. If I do not comply with the policy, it is not because I'm being recalcitrant, it's because I either didn't know about that policy or I did it wrong. So with that said, I offer like reconciliation. If there is, for example, if you can help us get those like contracts to save us money, I would be ecstatic about that, if that is something that you can help me with. So I just wanna be clear, I think that maybe part of the miscommunication is, so I offered this explanation, right? And I'm starting to think that maybe the reason it wasn't accepted is because maybe it didn't match some specific format or some specific doctrine, and that's understandable. But I would have had to know about that, so this was my good faith attempt to explain where taxpayer money went and why. So with that said, in the future, if you clearly articulated to me what you expected me, I will ensure that I comply with that expectation.
I think, I am happy to do so. But when you're provided the newest policy over and over and you continue to pull up the old policy and argue with the poor accounts payable person for just email chains on end, as the head of my department, that's when I have to step in and say, this is a little unreasonable. The person in accounts payable is just asking for documentation. So I'm happy to provide the new policy, but I'm not gonna argue the policy that's been accepted or adopted by the BOCC. I'm gonna tell you, this is the policy, and part of my job is to hold that policy line, even though no one loves that. So I do wanna say, I'll always provide that most up-to-date policy, so that you can utilize it. And I'm also happy to help, if you wanna set up a GovX account, help send you the information so you can set one up. So I do think that partially our accounts payable person is spending excessive amounts of time going back and forth over reimbursements that do not have documentation provided. And not just in this instance, across the board.
Yeah.
So I will make sure that we are clear in the future, but you have to accept the policy that's provided and read it.
Also, like, the policy is public. So just because somebody has emailed you something in 2021, Alex, like, any of us can look up the financial policies, those are all public and it's all available on our website.
We're all people, we all make mistakes, you
Yeah.
know, like anytime things start to escalate like this, feel free to reach out to other staff, you know, county managers. Even reach out to us if something's starting to go south and, you know, it looks like something like this is coming. You know, Alex, I could have right away been like, oh, this is 2021, you know, this is definitely old. And, you know, help us maybe avoid something like this moving forward.
So, the only problem I have is that I asked for the newest small purchases policy because that's the one applicable to this instance. And I wasn't provided with it.
Well, you were provided with the financial policies, which it doesn't explicitly say small purchase policy, but all of our policies are in what was given to you, including small purchases. So it's, just because it's not formatted the way it used to be, doesn't mean that it wasn't communicated. So it might have been kind of confusing. Regardless, the point is that instead of like pausing the miscommunication that was happening, instead of like offering like, whoa, something weird is going on here, I think I'm in the right, they clearly think they're in the right, we're not communicating, instead of pausing, you did not pause. And that's what I've already heard from you, is that you're willing to pause in the future and communicate without the screen.
Yes.
Is that right? That's what you said earlier? Yeah, that's how I could see this going forward. When it comes to reconciliation, I don't think this is an appropriate place to do that, frankly. Like, it doesn't help to be watched and doesn't help to be in a public place. Like, reconciliation takes vulnerability and honesty, and I want you to be able to have that, but I just wanna say that this doesn't feel like a place where that could be possible, personally. Do you feel that way, Candace? Yeah.
What if and I hope too, Alex, that you are serious about this and that you're not gonna, you know, be on a phone call with someone and then say, well, I'm recording this, or any meeting I'm gonna have with you needs to be recorded. Like, I really, truly hope you are going to work on this. Or, since we're going to talk about financial policies next, like, if you have feedback on the financial policies, you can provide them. I have offered that to you in the past.
Nice.
So, for a whole host of things, so if you want to provide the feedback, there's a loop for it, and I know you know that.
I want to be clear that I do not take issue with purchasing policies, nor do I see it as my place to dictate or even advise on purchasing policies. I am not an expert in these matters. I see it as my place to comply with them.
Great.
Which is going to be my intention and my practice.
Great. Thank you.
Alright, does everyone feel like we've hashed through this one pretty well?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next page. Let's go.
Candace, are you okay with, you know, everything that we've talked about? Alex, how about you?
Yes.
Awesome.
Alright, moving on, agenda item number 2, the review of Eagle County's financial policies to inform the development of
Sorry.
Our financial
My screen already went to sleep. To review, you know, stuff.
What is
Just
this?
a link to them.
Yeah. I'll let you, if you want me to kick up.
I can drive.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I sit by you?
Please, babe, this is open.
So that's the seat.
So I can use the mouse.
So I would really love to overhaul
Thanks, Alex.
See ya.
Thank you, Alex.
all of our financial policies to be one cohesive document. Right now, all of our financial policies have like a one-liner to reference the other 5. So even when I'm trying to like understand what I'm asking people for, because you know they're new to me, I'm like referencing 5 different policies and that feels exciting. But I'm also like, if I'm decoding it, what on earth are the people who are not finance people trying to use this doing? So in an effort to really streamline our financial policies, I really like what Eagle County has done. So I'd like to show you what I'd like to move towards so that I could work on putting all of our financial policies into one document. And
Can I get one
Oh, yeah,
quick thing
sorry.
in real quick, just in the interest of making sure we're not wasting anyone's time? Do we have the sheriff and fire here for what we're supposed to be, what we're on? Or was there a scheduling?
For the first one.
Oh,
You guys were here for the last topic?
No, I think this is great, I'm trying to stay.
Okay, I just wanna make, I know everybody's busy, everyone's got stuff, okay.
Up to you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming, I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you,
thanks
guys.
guys.
So what I really love is that their policies have, these are updated as of 24, but their policies don't really change over time. But the process, which is not baked into the policy, can change, which I love because I've actually met with Heath to discuss, okay, what we're asking for in terms of travel reimbursements when we're sending someone to post-training, that maybe doesn't make sense for your department. So the policy, how we document what we do and what we ask for, that doesn't change per department, but what we do to help them achieve compliance for what we need, maybe that process can look different, depending on the situation. And the process can be updated as things change, like compliance items. So what I'd really like to do is kind of follow this model that explains what our policies are, our purposes are, and then we link in our procedures manual. So the procedure is just like, what do you do to turn in your travel reimbursement? What are the steps you follow? That might change from year to year as we get better. But this would kind of absolve us having to redo 5 policies every year, update them. I really love that it explains our budget timeline, how we build budgets, long-term financial planning, all of the documents we currently have, but it's really just in one document where you can click to the part of the policy you need. And I really love that it explains, okay, this is the BOCC's role, and I mean, mind you, this is Eagle County, so each department gets its own fiscal staff. We don't have that in every department. We're working with a slightly smaller budget. So this may look a little different, but I'd love to just say, hey, this is what department leaders will control, here's what finance will do, here's the BOCC and what they do before each policy. I think our current policies came from a place of we had no structure, so in an effort to create structure, I believe it's written from a lens of finance, where they control everything and there was not a lot of input from other departments. And I would really like to empower other departments to understand their budget, understand their expenses, and help them be able to submit the correct documentation to finance, so we aren't piling through a travel reimbursement request. It's kind of been looked at by the head of the department or whomever their delegate is to review those so that they know it's in order before it ever even reaches us.
Yeah.
And I think that piece is missing right now. And so what I would like is to get your blessing to redo our policies into one and to clearly define who does what and give some of the control of the department and owning the budget and understanding the budget back to the person in charge of that budget. Not without any support from us in finance. I do think if they don't have a good process, we'll help them with the process piece. We'll develop a process that works for the department and finance. But I think this type of a policy, and you can read through it at your leisure, it's pretty lengthy, really gives us an opportunity to define, okay, if it's a business expense, you provide a receipt. That receipt says what the expense was for, you provide a rationale, you make sure it was budgeted, you as the department head or you're a delegate, they sign off on that before it ever gets to us in finance. So I would really love to redo our policies to kind of reflect a dual ownership of the fiscal responsibility, because part of being a director of a department is you are responsible for your budget and the dollars that come in and go out. Not saying we're not gonna question a purchase if we're like, whoa, that seemed way out in left field. But to have a little bit more of a conversation piece between finance and departments This would encompass expenses, it would encompass a grants procedure, or a policy, and then we can work to create a procedure that's evolving as our county's needs evolve. So I think with that being said, I really just wanted to get a little bit of feedback from you guys about what do you like about our current policies, and is this a direction you would like to move before I go to put the time in to like make our policies more in this vein.
You have someone
Of course, this
P
is
card?
what we should do is.
What's that?
You have someone P card, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, is there way too many P cards out there? Could there be one P card per department or two?
You know, we did look at that, it becomes a little bit of a liability because a P card in our current Wells Fargo world, which we don't have to stay with them forever, I hope we don't, they're charging us a lot of fees right now. They make us assign it to a person, so like for the sheriff's office, it would have his name on it and people would be checking out his card.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of liability. I mean, I guess like that's part of your, like if you wanna lend it to somebody, but also he has people that travel.
Yeah.
So I do think there's emergency services cases where we need more than one P card. We're transporting someone to a different state and then what, the sheriff's office doesn't have a P card. I don't think that's a great model, but I do think we can start to assign department P card holders to the department head so that they are reviewing, is a receipt provided? Is this legitimate? Does it fit within my budget? And do they want to start to pull back some of those P cards? Because I think when they are responsible for reviewing them in the way that finance is reviewing them right now, it makes you say, oh, well, that just absolutely wasn't in my budget. I didn't even know that was happening. So I think this gives us the opportunity to hand a little bit more of understanding what's happening back to the department head. And of course, they can reach out to us to support them in any way. But I don't think we can have just a one department card for that liability piece.
The receipts seems like a real problem.
Yeah, it really
Because
is.
the policy says there's no receipt, there's no reimbursement. Or, I mean, I would never try and submit a bill without a receipt. That's impossible.
I did the first audit of the P cards in December, and then we did it again, in December for November expenses and in January for December. The majority of our expenses have no receipts provided, which leaves us to go and, finance, to go and chase them down. People have gotten a lot better about submitting them. I think it's just they've never been asked when they haven't done it before. So I think it's just a learning process. But also we wanna start to, if we've never had a consequence tied to not doing it. So now the consequence is, the first time it's a, hey, you forgot to code and attach your receipts. The next time it's, hey, we're gonna pause your card for a month. You need to figure out if you really can handle this. It's a responsibility.
I used to have this conversation
third time
literally every day,
is
hunting
like-
down receipts. I was like, look, no, you are not old enough, you're not responsible.
But what we
It's like
hope
printing
is,
out screenshots of online purchases, things of that nature, I guess is kind
Yeah,
of where the
like-
big disconnect is,
It's all
cause we're in such a.
electronic, you just have to like attach it.
yeah,
Yeah,
You can,
but-
you can have a
portal.
Wells Fargo app on your phone, so you just take a
Picture.
picture of it.
Upload it.
There's lots of ways.
Yeah,
so I think where we're at is we just want to get people to know what the policy is. And then help them be successful at it, and if they really can't be successful at it, then it's a conversation of, okay, maybe P card isn't your method, maybe AP should go to. So I do think we are trying to use our policies to create better clarity around what to do, how to do it. We're willing to help people, but I really do want for department directors to own their budget. And part of that is that they are making sure receipts are there. Right now, finance is doing this for all almost 100 P card holders and then every AP purchase that's submitted to finance.
so
And
is
we
there any,
want people to manage the budget.
Let's go for things.
yeah, no, I like that idea.
Sorry,
I wonder if there's any departments that are already so saddled and so overworked and stretched thin that you know, there might be one or two departments where we kind of make an exclusion on this. I don't know, like, I'm just throwing it out there because I don't know.
For just having one department card.
Well, no, about like, you know, we want you to get all your purchases, you know, forms filled out and all the receipts stapled. I have concerns about things like DHS and how they're running on a thread already.
They're never a
I think-
problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I
Good to
Go
know.
DHS.
I should close the door, Blue's here, it's back.
Is that a dog?
Yeah, it's one guy.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think there should be an exception to it, this is just
Okay.
our standard operating procedure, this
Okay.
is how we do business. Okay, I get it, right, you're at a conference, whatever, there wasn't breakfast, you got coffee on your P card, you lost the receipt, like, okay, I can deal with that. You spent $1,000 on Smith sunglasses and you don't have a receipt, I have an issue with that. Like, I think there's some subjectivity in the amount and the rationale of those things, but I think it just needs to be standard, right? Like, we can't pay
Essentially,
anything.
I was just worried about DHS
Okay.
and where we're closed, so that's, you know,
Also,
Because they do have their own finance.
if they're already on
Yeah.
top of it, then, you know, they're
If we take each department as its own thing, for instance, the library, aren't there 6 or 7 cards at the
there are,
library?
and she's great at coding and putting receipts on everything.
Now, why don't they have, I mean, they're all ordering books, and 6 of them are ordering books, why isn't
They
there?
don't order those on a, well, they used to put their Amazon on a P card, but I had sat down and had a face-to-face conversation with the librarian and I said, hey, can we just move to invoicing your Amazon? We did, great, she gave us the login, we pay it for a month. She's codes all of her purchases and always has, so
Okay.
that's why I like separating the policy, what we do, from the process, because the process for the library who orders volumes of books on Amazon looks really different from the finance team who just needs to order some paper for the annex. So that's why I like separating, hey, we require receipts. We require that you submit a travel reimbursement form with receipts, but how that looks for one group might look different because the library and the sheriff's office do not operate the same way. And so I think that's kind of the goal with this, is to move
Awesome.
process and procedure from policy, so that you guys don't have to review the process every time. You're just saying this is our policy and what we ask for and what's required.
Do you need help with any specific departments that don't seem to be stoked
So the
on
public
playing
meeting.
rules?
The public meeting.
Elected officials, except for you, these guys.
I think it gets to be really challenging when we have departments that are not staff, and the response I get is, I don't answer to you.
Yeah.
And I don't care, I just have to use the policy, cause I answer to the policy and that's my job.
Yeah.
So I think those are challenging, but I honestly think this gives us an opportunity to sit down with CLT. I plan to work on revising this, bring it back to you guys. I'm meeting with every department head to get input, which didn't happen with our last round of policies. It was like, we need a policy.
Yeah.
Wild West. But now we really wanna refine those policies and get feedback from each department to say, okay, what about this makes sense? What doesn't, and how can we format a process separate from the policy that fits the needs of your department, but still gets us the accountability we need as BOCC, who are responsible for what's happening, and then me, who's reviewing P cards and just wants to be transparent, because that's what we've been asked for.
Awesome, sounds great, thank you.
Can I offer, when I've had like different departments that have different procedures that follow the same policy, for me, especially reviewing it every year, it has been very helpful to have it all in one place. So for instance, a P card policy, and then if there are separate procedures for different departments, all of that is under the same policy. Just offering, I can
Yeah.
see that this is separate, but just something to consider, so that you're not so that when you create a procedure, it references a very clear policy
Yeah.
and you're not updating too many documents when the procedures and policies are separate.
I think what they do
Reflection.
here, and I would love to do, is link in.
Oh, right, cause this is electronic.
Yeah, it's okay. But I
Mine
would
were all
love,
printed,
Yes.
cause I had to carry them around, you know.
I would love to continue to link in any procedures that we use.
Freaking brilliant, you carry on, Candace, carry on, you don't need me. I love it.
So that way when the
Great.
procedure gets updated, it's
Great.
still linked in.
Just stop talking, just stop talking. Please move on from that ridiculous
Okay.
question. Okay.
I think that's all I
Great.
had, but also wanted to make sure if there's anything you guys feel passionately about that's in our current policies and procedures that you let me know you would like to re-see it.
Would you like to move our P cards from Wells Fargo to another?
I would
Right.
love to do that. I think that is a Q2 goal for me.
Okay.
I'm finishing our audit on time. That's my first priority, and then moving the P cards over is the next goal, because I do think we're paying a lot in fees, and it'll help us clean up and reach out to departments to say, hey, who do you really need to have a P card?
Yeah.
And what limits do they really need to be?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think my to help the finance department and ultimately to help the BOCC, as you're creating your policies, just to be as explicit as possible with elected officials, like how they are not exempt from these things. And to like also honor that they are autonomous elected officials, like if there's a way that you can write that into the policy, I would just love to see that first draft from the beginning.
I'm gonna provide, we have a session, I think, already scheduled for you guys to review this once it's been updated to reflect its Lake County and our processes. Some of the processes that are in this document are like really nice to have, but we don't have the staff for that, and that's like a way down the road. So some of these won't be applicable to us and what we can do with the staff we have, so that's what I'd like to make this geared towards us, to fit what we can do, to get input from other departments, so that we're knowing, oh, the library operates in this way, this is what we could do and what makes sense, and then present it to you guys to review and give me feedback if you want something changed before we adopt them.
Cool.
Well, it's not lost on me all the amazing work you and your staff have been doing down there already.
Yeah, we're lucky to have you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's all I had. I just wanted to get any feedback if you were like, no, do not change them. I would want to know that before I do all the work.
I would like to know where my P card is. I applied for it.
Seriously,
3 months ago.
there are three. Do you have one?
Of
course you
do.
Don't give me one, I don't need it.
Just first thing I'm buying is my chairs.
They
Don't give
mail
up
them to us, so as soon as they are received in the mail, we will bring them to you.
Locking it in a desk.
Wow, we can experiment with the policy.
Matt's in trouble. Elected
Keep an
officials
eye on
are by the policy.
I'll add it to the 7
The
cards. I need in
finance
my wallet.
team only has one, and we never use it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's fun.
We just use Tim's.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we like to see, is people swapping them around,
Yes.
it's like playing with cards.
Tim's is gonna get turned off here shortly, isn't
On the 24th at 5.
25th,
Oh, 25th?
yeah, 5.
We actually leave them open just so we can code
Okay.
the card.
Yeah.
Once it's coded, it's officially shown.
I'll wait till we switch banks. One less to.
Yeah, I don't need that.
Switch over.
it? I can't imagine what we would need them for, but I guess travel.
You
So
can
when
figure
you
it
guys go to
out.
conferences, yeah.
We'll
We'll
find
I wanna buy a
reasons.
ream of paper to split up between all the different printers and finding on my computer. It's like
Where's that one?
reusable printers. Okay, where'd my stuff come out today?
Yeah.
They're all named Rico.
Ah.
Hey Candace,
I don't know where
can I put something out there?
Yeah.
Just
if that's okay with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just in terms of travel and everything, I really struggle with like hotels and vendors on like
Yes.
sales tax stuff, and like I've had hotels tell me, like I give them like our tax exempt and they go, oh, that doesn't apply to us. And I was like, I didn't even know that was possible, and they like gave me a letter saying it doesn't apply to us. I'm like, this is really weird. Nobody ever questioned it. I submitted the letter with everything, but maybe just some guidance around travel, how to best use sales tax certificates, what happens when you go to a hotel and then when you issues with sales tax. That might be really helpful, because it's been, at Safeway it's really easy, but everywhere else it's kind of a pain sometimes.
I think that's the goal, is to get a good policy in place and then work. I think the last policy got put in place and it was like, everybody figure it out, there's no plan to execute. And so our goal is to work with you guys to have a plan to execute first.
Do it. Don't understand it, do it.
And also, I think anytime you guys provide like documentation that someone would accept our sales tax is exempt, it's like, okay, understood. And then we reimburse it, especially if it's coming out of your pocket. Bigger discussion, not for today.
No, just
we
for
would love to explore a procurement human in the future.
Yes.
It
does
well, I mean,
contracts administration and all that.
just think if one person handled booking hotels. I know there are emergencies wouldn't it just be nice to be like, this person books hotels for us and they research the best cost and they get it sales tax exempt.
Yeah.
That
And
feels
I don't
great.
have to call Tim every time I
And you can
check in
charge the
somewhere,
card.
like, Tim, pay for this thing, please. They
And
want
the
my money and I don't have
procurement
any.
person pays. That feels a direction like we would want to move in eventually. We're just not there yet.
Yeah.
Is there anybody in your department? How many people do you have in your department?
Everyone in my department is maxed right on out.
How many?
Full bandwidth
Is there
usage.
6 in there?
7 with me.
In my past lives with in-house positions and stuff, and the attorney, the in-house counsel or general counsel, whatever, or county attorney was over those kind of things, because typically you had an attorney, in this instance, the deputy, who would be assigned for all the contract review stuff, and then you'd have an administrative person that would work with them to shepherd some of this stuff instead, to make sure that everything met their legal requirements and all that type of thing, so that's something, and I've mentioned to Mr. Tim, maybe, and Candace, we can look towards the best way to facilitate that.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
I had a couple comments.
Oh, please.
Yes, sir.
One, just from experience on a policy management standpoint, when I was with Colorado State Patrol, they used Power DMS. Here we use Lexipol. And what's nice is that there's a cost associated with this, so it's worth looking into potentially. But what's nice about it is anytime there's any sort of change to policy, emails are sent out, notifications are made. It's a way of logging who's acknowledged the policies and making sure that all that stuff is tracked, connecting points to different policies. So it is nice. There's a cost. I don't know if it's worth it for given our size and the size of our policy. But the other comment is, in full support of this, what I see from my experiences is starting off here. This is, I think, pretty historic to Lake County. Is starting from scratch each time, and I think it's great to see that you guys are not doing that. Tim and his team has created this environment where we can have some positive changeover, we can develop succession. And if I had something like this when I started, I would have known what the historic numbers were, what was working, what was not working, bringing in my new vision and being able to adjust that. My presentations to the commissioners for my budget were like, I don't know what any of that was. And it's like I'm kind of starting from scratch, and I think this prevents that, even from an elected position. This brings some succession into elected positions, so thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Moving in the right
Direction.
We're getting there.
Yeah, repetition and baby steps.
It's my motto for the year. We're getting there.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks,
see ya.
Ethan.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Alright, anything else, commissioners?
Nothing from me.
Not for me.
No.
thanks.
All right.
And we will, on finance policies, we will discuss with you at some point the disaster financial policies, which will be separate from these because it's, well,
In emergency
There-
scenarios.
yeah.
Which is why I hung out today.
Okay,
Yes,
cool.
yeah.
I came for the first part, I hung out to see
Yeah.
how I could better align some of the draft work I'm doing to present it to the Candace on disaster finance policies.
Cool.
Just to see what you guys were thinking of and see how I can align.
Nice.
But those policies will look at what happens when you all declare a disaster, because we can have a little bit more flexibility sometimes, but still follow public procurement and procedure.
Okay,
Yeah, and also make sure we're aligning with documentation for FEMA and the state and whoever else. Well, that does all that, but that's a whole conversation for another day.
okay. Cool, anything else from anyone in the room? Alright, well, it's 2:14 PM, we are going to conclude today's afternoon work session of Lake County Board of County Commissioners. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.